This is the GIS Evening Report for Thursday, July 11th, 2024. I am Chrisanne Mitchell. In the headlines, Prime Ministers of Dominica, St. Kitts and Nevis and St. Lucia joined Prime Minister Honorable Deacon Mitchell on a tour of hurricane-ravaged Carriacou and Petite Martinique on Wednesday to get a first-hand view of the storm's impact on the island. We'll have details to this story and more when we return. Regional leaders have jumped to the rescue of Grenada, Carriacou and Petite Martinique following the devastation caused by Hurricane Beryl on Monday, July 1st. On Wednesday, a few of the leaders accompanied Prime Minister Honorable Deacon Mitchell to tour some of the severely affected areas on the sister island to gain a first-hand appreciation of the damage and immediate needs of the country. Prime Ministers of St. Kitts and Nevis, Terence Drew, St. Lucia, Philippe Pierre, Dominica, Roosevelt Skerrit, and French Ambassador to Grenada, Francis Etienne, all pledged their commitment to support the restoration and rebuilding efforts for the people of Carriacou and Petite Martinique.
I am still in a bit of shock with the extent of the devastation here on Carriacou and in the Grenadines in general. I'm thinking about the people who have been so affected and how are they dealing with it. And I want to start by extending support from St. Kitts and Nevis and to say to the people of the Grenadines and Grenada that we are with you. You are not alone. I want to also say that the OECS, as chair as the OECS, outgoing chair, that the OECS is with Grenada and the Grenadines as well. To the people of Carriacou, Grenadines, St. Vincent, Grenada, more power to you. You are not alone. We are with you.
I'd seen some of the devastation on television, but you have to see for yourself. I don't think I can describe what I saw today. What was most striking is that the people seem to be resilient. The people seem to want to pick up the pieces. I go in to wish them well. It is total devastation. And for probably islands in the region who have not seen that level of devastation, I think they should try to understand what a hurricane is and take all necessary steps to be prepared for such an eventuality.
These instances, these storms come and people get to understand the challenges and the alarm that we've been talking about. So we'll work with the government of Grenada as we can to help with the reconstruction and rebuilding. At CARICOM level, as you know, we have a subcommittee of prime ministers who have been charged with coordinating the mobilization of resources. And even if the storm did not affect Dominica, but I serve on that committee as well, because I believe it's important for us to show solidarity, because any island that gets affected, we're all affected, one way or the other. And so I want to urge the people of Grenada to work together. This is not a time for us to point fingers and lay blame at anybody. This is a time for us to come together and to help those persons who are in need. And if you cannot be constructive at this time, then it makes no sense to speak, because that's not what the people of Carriacou and Petite Martinique want to hear. People want to hear a hope, confidence, and that their lives and livelihoods will be restored.
When we see our sister nations in the Caribbean being hit and people being distressed, there's no question for the French not to intervene, not to support. So we were asked to provide kits which were delivered by the Navy boat du Mont d'Urville those last days. We were asked to have the possibility to see from above today with the helicopter how extensive the damages were. And we are simply not happy to provide, because this is not a happy circumstance, but we think it's our duty and expression of solidarity for the people and the government of Martinique and Guadeloupe. And so here we are. We will provide assistance as needed. The boat will return next week to Carriacou and Petit Martinique. And if we can be of any help, of any assistance, and later in a reconstruction as French and as European, we will be happy to provide.
The regional heads say climate change is real and small island developing states are more vulnerable and at risk. They are hopeful that in the not too distant future, international countries will realize a continuous call for the reduction of gas emissions and other factors that contribute to climate change is accurate and can be considered.
The next decade for the Caribbean is going to be devastating. This will become a reality. It is a hard fact to face, but it's a fact that we must face. This year, we are being hit by category 4, 5 early in the season. Next year, it's going to be basically the same in terms of the risk because we did not achieve keeping the temperature below 1.5. The latest report is that we have gone above 1.5, meaning the temperature compared to the pre-industrial age is now 1.5 degrees higher. For us in the Caribbean, that means droughts, irregular rainfall, lack of water, stronger storms, stronger hurricanes. It means that our very way of life is at risk. But I want to say that the Caribbean people, we are a resistant people, a resilient people rather, and we'll continue to join forces to resist what is happening.
It comes to the bigger issue of climate action. And climate change is real, and the larger countries have to come to the fore. The larger countries have to keep their promises at adaptation so we could get to mitigation. It's a serious situation. Lives, not only lives are at threat, but livelihoods are at threat. So I want to say to the people of the Grenadines to be strong, be resilient, and we'll all come together to get out of this.
We are faced with an existential threat with hurricanes and storms. I mean, just earlier this year, Grenada suffered dramatically where drought was concerned, which caused a serious water scarcity issue. And then weeks later, you're faced with this Category 3, Category 4 hurricane. Of course, the devastation is dramatic, and it's going to cost a lot of money to rebuild infrastructure. And an element, sometimes we look at the infrastructure, but sometimes the folks don't pay attention to people's livelihoods and the impact it will have on people for many years to come. And so we stand in solidarity. The hurricane season has now been extended to December, no longer September, and it's a reality that we're faced with. But we have to be hopeful. You know, we have to do a lot more by ourselves. That's reality, and I'm urging all to exercise patience because only by patience and working together we got to overcome this challenge. We have gone through this in the past in Grenada. And we have some experience, and certainly those experiences will be brought to bear towards the reconstruction efforts in Grenada.
Prime Minister Honorable Deacon Mitchell is satisfied with the response from his CARICOM and OECS colleagues thus far and solicits their continued support throughout the restoration process.
They see the magnitude of the disaster. Scene is believing. They've pledged more support. They have discussed sending a group of tradesmen, carpenters, masons, plumbers, electricians in the coming week to help us with at least temporarily putting on as much roofs as we can so that people could be minimized from the challenges of the weather. As you're aware, the Antigua government has members of the RSS, so to Barbados, Guyana. We expect this weekend from St. Lucia, Dominica, and Trinidad and Tobago electrical linesmen for the transmission and distribution system. So without doubt, it is really the OECS and CARICOM members that are coming to the rescue of the citizens of Grenada, CARICOM, and Petit Martinique at this difficult time. So the boots on the ground are from our brothers and sisters in the region, and so I just want to express my profound appreciation again to all of the Prime Ministers for visiting.
A delegation of leaders from the region will travel to St. Vincent and Union Island next Tuesday to do damage assessments and support response efforts there following the passage of Hurricane Beryl last week. Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines are seeking response efforts from regional partners in the Caribbean following the devastation of the islands by the passage of Hurricane Beryl on July 1st. Prime Minister Honorable Deacon Mitchell and Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Ralph Gonsalves, during a virtual press conference Thursday, made the appeal for funding to aid in the restoration of homes and businesses for the over 40,000 people affected by the passage of the hurricane. The virtual press conference was used as a platform to launch the regional response plan for Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the aftermath of the hurricane. The response plan is a provision for humanitarian assistance, supports restoration of livelihoods and critical services with specific focus on vulnerable groups. Prime Minister Mitchell, in his presentation, made a clarion call for increased capital investments and shorter disbursement periods to enhance the disaster response efforts of the countries.
Our ask in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, and the ask for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, is that we need grant resources as our economies, our societies simply cannot afford more debt. The reality is that we need funds with a quick disbursement period post-hurricane. In the ideal situation, and we make this call now, we should in fact have funding in place even before the event so that we can respond immediately. The conversation on sustainable development calls for the creation of new facilities that will give us, as small island developing states, on the forefront of the climate crisis, the flexibility to have fast access to grant funds. In the normal scheme of things, disbursement periods are best case scenario 4 to 8 weeks. This is simply too long. In Grenada's case, in Carriacou and Petit Martinique's case, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines' case, we need the funds now. It is only 10 days since the passage of Hurricane Beryl, and our needs and the needs of our citizens are immediate.
Honorable Deacon Mitchell said that while there are funds set aside and insurance policies for events like these, the resources needed at this time is much more.
But the payout from all these funds is a drop in the bucket of the amount of financial resources we need to rebuild Carriacou and Petit Martinique and our northern parishes. The cost for living on the front lines of the climate crisis is too high for us alone to pay or to bear the brunt of. Our people, our societies, our islands want to stay alive. We deserve to stay alive. And so we need your help and your assistance in making this happen.
Dr. the Honorable Ralph Gonsalves said that Beryl now puts their country in a position that requires the support of every regional partner.
The damage that Beryl has caused to St. Vincent and the Grenadines will run into hundreds of millions of dollars. We don't have the material or the technical resources. To be sure, we are a resilient people. We have done a lot relying on our own efforts. And we have faith. And we have fresh hope. And we are possessed of love. But we require the solidarity of our regional and international families.
The Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility will make payouts of over US $44 million to Grenada following the passage of Hurricane Beryl. 90% of all buildings, airports, marinas, gas stations, the hospital, and homes on the sister islands of Carriacou and Petit Martinique were completely destroyed during the hurricane. In addition, the northern part of mainland Grenada suffered damage to homes, the agriculture and forestry sectors, and electric utility transmission and distribution and water distribution systems. CCRIF's parametric insurance policies makes payments based on the intensity of an event and the amount of loss calculated in a pre-agreed model caused by these events. The payout to Grenada on its tropical cyclone policy is the single largest payout by the facility. Until now, Haiti had the single largest payout, having received just under US $40 million following the 2021 earthquake. The governments of St. Vincent and the Grenadines will receive US $1.8 million, and the government of Trinidad and Tobago will receive US $372,752 for the impacts of Beryl on Tobago. Jamaica will also receive payouts, and these will be communicated later this week. The GIS Evening Report returns after this break.
Violence is never the answer. Let's talk it out. We need a safe space for our children to grow up, so let us respect each other. You see this little light of mine? I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna keep it burning for the children is looking on. So let's take advantage of the gun amnesty in full effect until July 30th. Remember, the answer is love. A message from the Ministry of National Security. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. I'm gonna keep it burning.
The gun amnesty remains in effect until July 30th. A message from the Ministry of National Security.
Welcome back. Acting President of the Caribbean Development Bank, Isaac Solomon, led a mission to Carriacou and Petite Martinique on Wednesday to conduct an assessment of the damage to formulate response strategies. The mission is part of the CDB-supported regional response mechanism, which symbolizes resources to territories most severely affected by hurricanes. CDB deployed staff to Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines to assist in delivering immediate response support following the passage of Hurricane Beryl.
Yeah, what I've seen in Carriacou is a story of two tales, really, where I'm seeing a few houses that are still intact, more than I expected, but then that is given the size of the island as well. But I'm also seeing more total destruction, where some properties are totally destroyed. There's nothing left. And so, but overall, the destruction is pretty catastrophic. And it's going to take a whole lot to recover from an event like this.
Solomon told GIS the mission will assess the immediate needs and long-term recovery efforts of the affected islands.
Well, we work through the government, and so there are some things that will have to be done on both sides, and I wouldn't want to speak to that, but just be assured that, and I'm pretty sure, the government, we are all vested in ensuring that we are able to, first of all, respond to the immediate situation and then to speak to the long-term recovery efforts.
The Ministry of Mobilization, Implementation and Transformation will lead a massive cleanup campaign on the sister islands of Carriacou and Petite Martinique this weekend. This initiative is in collaboration with the Ministries of Climate Resilience and Infrastructural Development, as well as NADMA and the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority. A total of 400 volunteers are needed for the weekend cleanup, 200 on Saturday and 200 on Sunday. Volunteers will be transported via Osprey, departing from the mainland at 6 a.m. and returning at 6 p.m. on both days. Project manager Patricia Besessa from MIT is calling for able-bodied individuals aged 18 and over to support the cleanup campaign.
So we're asking each of the volunteers to walk with whatever equipment you have. Weed eaters, chainsaws, you name it, walk with it. We're also getting a lot of support from some of the heavy equipment operators who've agreed to bring up their backhoes and send operators to help with the heavy lifting. So it is going to be a very large campaign this weekend, and we're hoping that everybody comes out to support us. Now, in terms of volunteers, we are working with NADMA, so if persons have already registered with NADMA, they don't have to register with us again, because NADMA will give us that list, right? You must be on the list to get on the boat. You can't just turn up. Now, to get on the list, you'd have to either contact NADMA directly, or you can contact the ministry. Our office number here is 435-8665, or we have a cell phone, 415-0573. You can WhatsApp that number as well, and just give us your name, your whether you're with a group, and if you have a special skill set. So if you can operate a chainsaw, let us know you can operate a chainsaw. So we know that we have 50 people on board can operate chainsaws. Because we are getting equipment, but we need people to operate it once we get there.
Volunteers are asked to assemble at the port opposite the fire station on the Carriacou by 5 a.m. to ensure early boarding and departure. And finally, in the news, the government, through the Ministry of Social Development, has successfully relocated 32 senior citizens from the sister isles of Carriacou and Petite Martinique to senior citizens' homes on mainland Grenada, following the destruction of the Top Hill Senior Citizens' Home in Carriacou and other private homes at which they were housed during the passage of Hurricane Beryl. Naomi Jeremiah, Permanent Secretary with responsibility for social development and gender affairs, gave an update on where the seniors are housed and some additional items needed to make their stay comfortable.
We have 32 persons have been relocated, both from Petite Martinique and Carriacou to Grenada. We have 16 persons that are located in True Blue. We have 15 at the St. Martin de Porres Home for the Aged, and we have 1 person at the Chichester Home for the Aged. Now, the capacity at all those 3 locations are up to maximum. And as a result, we have to look for additional housing accommodation for our elderlies, because we have, from reports coming in, from the data collected, we still have a few elderlies that are compromised in terms of their needs and the amenities. So we're asking for some support with regards to that. On that note, I would like to say thanks to Father Bishop Harvey for his support. He has really been a pillar during these difficult times for us Grenadians, and he has stretched out his arms together with the Catholic community to ensure that our elderly have accommodation. The community Grenadian who have certain amenities like nighties for the elderly, pajamas for the elderly also. You can also call our number at 440-2269 and speak to my secretary, Ms. Nichols. She will provide guidance with regards to those items.
Chikal Courtney, Chief Social Development Officer, Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs, says the process to relocate the seniors took great planning and effort.
As part of that response, the psychosocial team, the counselors of the ministry has gone to the 3 locations to speak to those persons and to provide that support for them so that they can adjust to the new environment and to help them to understand what is really happening. Our plan also is to find some, if you want to call it temporary, long-term accommodation, so that because we know that the rebuilding process in Carriacou would be one that would take some time. So we are in the process through the management of the ministry and the cabinet as well, in terms of planning as to how we can house these persons, older persons, on a long-term basis. We had a challenge starting on Friday. We transported 6 persons and 2 caregivers via SVGA. And that in itself, getting them into the plane, those with, they were unable to physically bring themselves into the plane, we had to lift and bring them into the planes. We had them checked, of course, medically before they traveled. And then when we got here, getting them off the plane as well, it was a challenge. The other persons were brought in via the Osprey. And that again was a challenge, less of a challenge in terms of having to take them onto the boat and off the boat. But it has been challenging. The staff has been up late nights trying to make sure that they are accommodated in the various locations. And we do what we have to do.
Courtney says with a more stable communications network on mainland Grenada, the process has improved in contacting relatives of the seniors who are based overseas.
For the Topil home, a few of the residents, the next of kin, are overseas. And because of the communication challenge in carriacou at the time, we were not able to reach out to them. That has started happening as they are now in Grenada. And some of them who have heard, by the way, have been reaching out to find out where they are placed and to have that information as well. While we're also speaking about elderly, but something that we're also seeing that accommodation for women and children and families is also a challenge at the moment. We're seeing an influx of persons and requests for accommodation. And we, as a ministry, we're asking anybody who is out there and has accommodation, apartment buildings or downstairs, wherever, that can come forward to provide that assistance to us, because government can't do everything. We need two hands to clap. So we're asking the general public to call, as PS said, 440-2269 and indicate to us that you have an apartment, you have a space where we can house families, women and children, elderly, and we would greatly appreciate that support at the moment.
He says relocation of the seniors is the first step, as the next move is to assist families with children who are requesting temporary relocation, as the cleanup process is now ongoing. This ends the GIS Evening Report for Thursday, July 11th, 2024. I am Chris Ann Mitchell saying thank you for viewing.